Okay. Dave Drake's Moto Academy podcast. We're back. We're firing on all syllables, and the views keep continuing to go up. It's unbelievable. So thank you guys. And thank you, Dave Drakes,
Love
for
it.
being a consistent, reliable, articulate co host that goes to the race. Apparently, last night, how did you get? I was texting you earlier, and Allie was like,
Hmm.
how did he get home that fast? Did you fly home last
Dude,
night or this morning?
I flew home last night. So after the race, hung around for in the pits for maybe hour and a half, let things die down, and your boy was off to the airport, man.
So, red eye,
So
technically.
red eye, yeah, red eye. Only saw a couple people in the airport because they were smarter than me, and they were like, "Nope, not doing it." So, but yeah, we got back, landed in Austin at 6 a.m. and just zombied my way to the airport shuttle, zombied my way to my car, like literally like grabbing my luggage and just throwing it like
Did you sleep on the flight or no?
that. Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, good.
I have a really bad habit of like watching exciting things on my phone. So like I'm tired, but like I want to see the stuff. So I'm watching Drive to Survive and just going through the whole series of, 2024 season and
Oh, so you kept
Lando
yourself awake.
Norris is a little bit. Yeah. Then after a while, I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And I just passed out.
Red eyes are not easy. Honestly, I used to try and
They're
sleep
not.
on them, and
Yeah.
now I don't. Well, actually, you know what? I just read a book recently, last couple of weeks, called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I don't know if I've mentioned it on this
Mm,
podcast yet or not, but he created something called logotherapy, which is basically
hmm.
therapy based on your meaning. Creating a meaning for
Yeah.
yourself is the therapy.
Yeah.
And in that, one of the things he talks about, it's called paradoxical intention. So when you're trying to, let's say, sleep, for example,
Hmm.
on a flight, or if you're having insomnia and you can't sleep at night, if you think to yourself over and over and over again, I want to fall asleep, that's part of your problem, right? You're forcing it,
Mm.
and you're trying so hard to do something that you can't do it. So paradoxical intention is when you intentionally create the mantra of the thing that you don't wouldn't want to be doing. So if you wanted to fall
Mm.
asleep on a plane, you would say to yourself, "Okay, I'm going to stay up this whole flight. I'm not going to sleep at all
Hmm.
this whole flight. I'm going to stay up this whole flight."
Yeah.
And according to him, that's the technique to actually make yourself fall asleep. I started doing
Interesting.
that on the plane, just what
Hmm.
you were saying. Like, I just kind of
Yeah.
gave up, honestly, on trying to sleep because that was not working, and started
Hmm.
to use that time to watch something, a podcast, or listen to, and I immediately
Yeah.
just started sleeping better on the
Yep.
red eyes. And I'm like, I figured it out.
Yeah. What I just meditate, like go over like prayers or something, whatever in your head, talk to whoever I want to push you on Jesus if I can. But like, yeah, the same prayers in your head, dude. Like to me, like after a while, I'm like, yeah, and I'm thankful for and I'm out.
Are you good at
So
sleeping, would you say?
Um, pretty decent. I am one of the people that have I always scramble in my mind on like what do I have to do next? What's this next like due date for
Mm.
this? How can I maximize on this? Oh, yesterday wasn't as good as it could have been because this is where you need to maximize, David. Here's your three things to focus on for tomorrow. I'm constantly doing that in my head. So um generally I'm okay. I used to be horrible. AJ, you know better than
Because
anybody.
for that
Uh
reason, like your mind would be too crazy with those thoughts, or for a different
for
reason?
for for that reason, but I was always just go go go. Like I was really really bad. Like there were I can't tell you how many races where like it would have been really helpful to just crash and go to sleep, but I'm like, nope, see you guys later. I'm going home and I'll just drive 7 hours after we've been up for 36 hours, and then I'd be like, oh crap, well I don't have this much time to do the thing that I want to do, so like I'll just get like quick 3 hours and then I'll do this thing, and before you know it, I've slept 7 hours in like 2 days,
You were
and
the
it yeah.
worst at torturing yourself with that, always. And I'm like, Dave is out of
Always.
his mind. There's no reason even for him to be doing this.
Nope.
Just torturing
Exactly.
himself.
Yeah, for no reason. So, but yeah, it's been much better lately, with the sleep, and normally I wouldn't do a red eye, but dude, I wanted to get home and see the baby so bad. I was like, I kept looking at pictures at the race, like everyone was like, oh, like let's do this for content. I'm like, yeah, cool, yeah, whatever. I'm like, look at this picture of her like pre-teething. Isn't that adorable? And they're like, dude, focus. So
All of my
yeah,
red
I
eyes
was
started when Millie was born too.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yep. So I was excited to come back and see the baby and hang out with her and stuff like that. So but yeah, we're here, man. We're cranking. I am dehydrated and tired, but we're here, man. And
So
I'm
Seattle
excited.
Supercross, how was it? I watched the race this morning, which that turned out to be a good idea.
Yeah,
And because I didn't
smart.
try to stay up, I'm like, you know what? Not even going to attempt it. Watched it this morning.
Yeah,
Was it cold
yeah.
or was it nice out?
It for this time of the year for Seattle, you can't complain. It was chillier than I would have liked. It was a little bit too breezy for like I'd say just a light pullover or something. But for Seattle Supercross, dude, the sun was out. It wasn't raining. It wasn't like 20 degrees. So I'm taking that as a win. Great conditions considering what it usually is in Seattle. But honestly, not a bad setup, not a bad day. We got some cool storylines out of it, and yeah, it was a pretty good event. I'm not bummed on it at all.
No, I was watching it. I watched it with
Yeah.
Allie and Millie watched
Yep.
it quite a bit this morning. And
Yeah.
Allie was getting into it too because it's so funny. I wish there could be a camera on us as we watch
Yeah.
Supercross as a family because the names that we all have for these people and just calling like all the sections of the track the wrong things, and I can't even think of.
You
I'm just like saying it, talking to Millie, making things up as I
yeah.
go.
You know what's crazy is not, dude, it was so unintentional. But last night, obviously, our boy Joshi Moto was up there battling dicing. And I screamed, "Let's go, Joshi Moto." And everyone next to me was like, "Is this kid dyslexic? Like, what is going on?" Everyone looked at me. I was like, "Oh gosh." Thanks, Allie.
Yeah, we got Joshy out there. I don't even know the names that I come up with, guys. Deeg Daddy,
Oh
hitting the
jeez.
the whoopsies. The names for the sections all change, and everybody's name is something completely different. But it's for Millie, and
Yeah.
I need to put a camera on us next time we watch it together. But I was getting
Oh,
into it.
that's
I'm like, okay,
adorable.
this track is cool.
Yeah.
I wish that there were a few more whoops in there, but what are you gonna do? The
Yep.
whoops though were
Exactly.
still interesting to watch because skimming was still faster, but
Hmm.
less and less guys were doing the skim
Yeah.
as you got deeper into the day, which I like. I definitely enjoy watching a supercross more when it's clearly faster to skim
Yeah.
and where you can see guys trying to weigh the risk reward on should I be skimming or not. Can we right off the bat on this podcast just give a shout out to Uganda? What is his name?
Uganda.
Yeah. Oh, you probably weren't paying attention because you were there. You wouldn't have been paying attention to who got second or third in the LCQ. But he's from Uganda. He got second in the 250 LCQ. His first main event.
Oh, really?
You don't know who I'm talking about?
No. Oh, no. That's a different dude. Was he the dude that did the outdoors
Oh,
last
for
couple of
gosh
seasons?
sakes! Did he do the outdoors? I don't know. I didn't watch the
I
outdoors.
don't.
Let me
You,
get
I was like,
guys
wait, that's
listening
a.
to this. I am
Ra-
so sorry. Stav Orland.
oh yeah,
Stav
yeah,
Orland.
yep.
Cool name, by the way.
Shout out.
Stav Orland. I just followed
Is
him
he
on
still on a
Instagram.
Cowie?
What?
Is he still on a Cowie?
So Dave, you weren't there, were you?
I was there, but I don't literally running back and forth between the
Dave,
stands and
the LCQs were the best races of the night. So shout out Stav Orland, killing the whoops. Just
like it.
he's tall, it appears, standing up and just
Mhm.
hanging off the back of the thing. Which, by the way, that's not typically how I recommend to get through whoops, but he was just like tractoring through the things every lap, just
Yeah.
blowing by dudes. And yeah, it was his first ever main. He almost came through the pack and won the LCQ. I think he got second in it. He kept Jordan Smith behind him the whole time.
Oh,
Like he was
okay.
killing it.
Whoa. Okay.
He was killing it. And then
Jeez.
yeah, they said his name, so I'm watching. I'm like, this
Mhm.
dude looks good. Then they said he's from Uganda. I'm like, who is this guy?
Okay.
Super.
I thought you were just shouting out a new country that you found on the map. You were like, you know what's cool?
I did have to look it up on the map,
like,
Dave, because I'm like, I don't know where Uganda is.
Uganda.
I did guess Africa, so I was right, and it's basically
Yeah.
smack dab in the top middle of Africa.
Yeah.
But shout out, Dave. I thought for sure you were gonna know who I was talking about.
I do know who you're talking about because they did like I think I don't even know who the new commentators are, but the female commentator for like the outdoors.
There's two black dudes out there, and Dave doesn't know one of them.
Which is, you know what's crazy? It's because my fan base is not the same as AJ, so I don't know what to tell you.
Well, your fan base is going to take a decline after this podcast, Dave Drake.
I know, dude. I'm trying to
and
get
guess
my
what?
fan base up. Dude.
Mine's going on up. Mine's still moving on up.
Going on up, dude. I guarantee you, he saw that and hit the refollow too for you. So now add another one to the fan base. But no, they did. I think they did a quick little snippet on him at Millville last year or something like that.
Oh.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that's the same guy. But yeah, he's a ripper, man. He rides really, really well. Bummed I did not pay attention to that part of the night program, but
250 LCQ was I was entertaining for that reason because he was just killing the whoops, and I found it cool because you could tell they were getting nasty. And especially nowadays when they get nasty, people start jumping early, and then it just makes it harder and harder to skim. And then 450 LCQ, did you watch that?
I did.
I
did watch that one.
And on TV, it turned into this.
I didn't know where to look.
Huh?
I didn't know where to look half the time, honestly.
Oh, on TV, it was hilarious because they bring JT on. JT talks about how the LCQ for Chisholm is all about taking your time and patience. And then RC said, well, I would have said the exact opposite, but it was funny how they went back and forth on that. And sure enough, as soon as JT says that, people in front of Chisholm just start dropping like flies.
Like it. Yeah, it couldn't have been a better Chiz.
It was like there were landmines on the track just blowing these guys up, and he's just riding through them and around them.
It. Exactly. Chiz is gonna chiz. You can always count on that. He will save your fantasy team every single time. But literally, like, I don't think if that was somebody else, if that was a less tenured Supercross racer, I don't think it would have been as smooth of a first place victory for them as it was for Chiz. Chiz just knows when to attack, when to be there. Like he'll get a good start, but like he won't put himself in positions to where like, oh, I could have gotten a second place start instead of a fourth. However, that would have led to blah, blah, blah. Like he can see that far ahead and know exactly like what's going to happen. And like, that was a masterclass in racecraft right there. That dude knows what he's doing seemingly at all times. And it's like poetry, man, honestly.
And
love
it's such
watching Chiz ride.
It's an interesting strategy for the LCQs, and it makes sense because because everybody else is in such desperation mindset that they're not thinking a couple steps ahead at all. 450 class for sure, people are a little bit more, but it still feels hectic and rushed. But it can feel, and it still is, a long enough race where you got to take your time a little bit. You definitely do. I mean, there's been plenty of 250 or 450 LCQs where I know it's a short race maybe as a fan, but when you're out there on the track, there's been multiple times where I've gone through just hell and back on the first lap. And so it felt like a main event happened on the first lap because there were so many things going on. Maybe I circulate one more lap and then I look up, I'm like, I got 4 minutes left of this thing. It just feels, sometimes it can feel like forever. So Chisholm just sort of sitting back a little bit. I mean, this is not the first time he's done that. Just really smart, and things go your way. Yeah. People will, especially on a track like that, they will mess up. I couldn't believe, was it Harlan? Because Harlan crashed.
Oh my god!
In the last corner on the last lap in the heat. In the last transfer spot, all by himself, just blew it, and then gets exploded by Rodriguez as he's cartwheeling. That wasn't his fault, but at the same time, going side by side in the last rhythm, maybe slightly questionable. Especially on a rutted track like that, I would have been nowhere near him, personally.
Yeah, and a rutted track like that where you can't easily switch up lines. Now, there are some Supercross races where in the transitions, you have a little bit of leeway to like kind of spot your landing a little bit. You can kind of get out of it and move around a little bit. I feel like for that one, especially that rhythm section where Rodriguez like had his, it looked so crazy in person, man. It looked insane.
Did it?
You were almost really slot card into that line. Like there was no moving over or adjusting, during transition or even a little bit of the
Intentionally.
pop afterwards. Intentionally, correct.
Because the
So,
way, maybe a lot of people don't realize this, when you ride a supercross track like that, or when you ride any technical track that gets rutted,
mhm.
you're not in the same line every single lap, even if you want to be.
No,
So,
no,
yes, you're slot card in, so to speak, but you're sort of at the mercy of just how you're getting shot off the jumps. And I don't care who
yes,
you are, how precise you are, those guys were not hitting and landing in the same lines. I wish
no,
that were the
no,
case, but you have to just accept when you get into the air, you have to pick the one that you're lining up with
hmm
and accept the fact that that's the one that you're going to end up in. You can manipulate a little bit for sure. And that's the benefit of like Jet having his steering stem really tight is he can actually turn the bike and maneuver the bike way
hmm
more in the air, which I found once I tightened mine. It's pretty cool. So that helps, but you're sort of at the mercy of you're just going to go where you're going to go. And I
exactly.
think
And a
that's a
good
good tip
example of that.
for the average
Oh,
person too that's terrified of ruts. It's like you can't always, and even the pros aren't forcing going in the same one every time. Now that would be hitting your marks technically, and that would be nice. But when a track is that crazy rutted, you're just not. And that's why you saw like
yeah.
that long rhythm lane. Is that where you were sitting next to?
I was sort of like caddy corner to it. So yeah, so I was basically there, like right in the corner. But
Looking at them
a
coming
good
towards you, sort of?
yes, yep. So a good example of that too is at the beginning of that rhythm, it was a single over table or step on, step off, whichever one you preferred, and you could see how the ruts kind of hooked. And even somebody like Roxon, who is a very good technical rider, getting kicked a little bit off of that. Like you can tell one time he'd hit it, he'd kind of seat bounce for the single over table, and the bike would kick out a little bit, but he'd have it under control. Next lap, you'd see like the same sort of line. He'd have to deviate just a little bit, and the bike would react a completely different way. So that right there showed me, I'm like, okay, if Ken Roxon is not able to really precisely land, because Kenny's like that. I almost say like
He's probably the
Kenny
best guy
is
at it.
he's the best guy at it, correct? With his precision, and it almost reminds me of like somebody in like supermoto or road racing where they can hit their marks every single time. Kenny is that kind of guy, and the fact that he wasn't able to do that, I was like, okay, this is going to be a treacherous track. Like this is going to be crazy come the end of the 450 main because
That's
the way
why
that he
on
was
off
getting,
there
yes,
would have been my line because just for
yep,
the fact of I'm getting out of some of these ruts. I could tell just
correct,
sometimes the camera angle would hit the face of that single over table and you'd be able to get a
yep,
glimpse of how rutted it was. I got to see it on camera like
mm,
twice. Um,
yeah,
but I could only
and they
imagine in
hooked a little
person,
bit,
they must have been
yeah.
nasty.
It was, and yeah, it had like a little bit of a hook, so you kind of have like this nice little consistent curvature. That at the end you'd have some either like a little bit of a washout or like a hook towards the end. So depending on what happened to the guy the lap before you who went through the rut, however they formed it coming out of it, it would kick the bike in different ways. And there's a couple times where Kenny came over it, and you're going into that, you're up the face, and the bike's kicking almost like the muffler's going like in the direction of travel. You
Yep.
know what I mean? The muffler side. So he's like having to do this and articulate the bike back and move it around. And then the next lap, it's more of what you would expect, and he kind of has a bit more control over that reaction. So that by itself was really telling of the track. You mentioned putting the steering stem really, really tight, and that's something that we've heard from Jet and a few other riders, especially I'm thinking of like the video where Jet was talking to Deegan. I think this is before Deegan went pro, obviously. And he was like, "Hey, mate, you gotta like get that steering stem nice and tight, move
Mm.
those levers in and stuff." There's a video I can't remember like whose it was. Do you recommend the tight steering stem and the tight setting for most tracks, or is that just a if the track's technical or if you have this sort of XYZ condition? What's your recommendation for that? Because it's a really cool kind of nuance that people can do with their bike setup.
Yeah, I'd be curious to ask you. I would say I don't see the negative in running it tight in any situation because it just settles
Mhm.
the front end and makes it feel like you have a steering stabilizer in a sense. And I bet you a lot of the pro guys, I'd be curious to just go up to everybody's bike and feel it. I bet you a lot of the pro
Yeah.
guys still haven't gone that tight with it because of how different it does feel when you jump. And it's a lot of
Yeah.
adjustment. So when you guys tighten that steering stem, try it. I highly recommend everybody try it. As soon as you catch air, you're going to be like, "Whoa, this is
Mm.
different," because you turn the
Yeah.
bars and it's moving the bike. There's no question. But
Mm.
once you get comfortable with that, I feel like I can scrub better, I can whip better.
Oh,
I,
okay.
I can, if there are ruts on the landing, I literally can move the bike more in the air. I'm a huge believer in it now, and I would run it on any track in any condition. Would there be a
Okay.
negative, do you think, to having it stiff in some conditions? What would be the negative to it? Or would there be none?
Um, I, I personally, I don't think so. I think there are positives when it comes to, like you said, like technical tracks, rougher tracks, because it is almost like you have that built-in stabilizer. The very obvious, you're gonna wear out your bearings a little bit quicker, but people are changing them once this season anyway, so or you should be, so you're pretty good. Um, I would say the place where I probably would feel it and feel like the awkwardness would be exactly like what you mentioned. When you're jumping or when you're coming into, especially like on a more harder packed section, when you're coming into a corner and you don't have as much separation between the front end and rear end, where every little twitch you make with the front end can affect you at corner entry, and you wouldn't really necessarily feel that as much on a looser, more rugged track because the bike's bouncing around and doing its, being grabbed anyway. So that's where I would say I'd feel it the most. But it's interesting when you mentioned like, oh, I feel that definitely over jumps or scrubbing. Because to me, it almost has a sensation of like when it's windy out and the
Hmm.
bike gets grabbed a little bit here or there,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, you move the bars a little bit. I'm trying to still dial in like where should my mic be? Talking, talking. Yeah, I don't have to
Yeah.
have it as close.
I do this. I grab mine all the time, but I'm
I,
doing the
I think
full.
I'm always paranoid of doing too many mouth noises, yet I feel
Mm,
like I always bring the mic too close to my face. So let me bring this thing away from me a little bit. Um, yeah, the first time I did it, I told myself I had to remind myself to have patience to give it a shot because I did one
mm,
lap and I'm like, whoa, no way. I'm not gonna, this feels bizarre. I'm turning it right back.
mhm.
And I just said, okay, trust it, do a few more laps. And sure enough, I started within 3, 4 laps, that odd feeling of like almost barrel rolling myself.
Yeah.
It's sort of what it
Yep.
felt like seriously, like a crosswind coming. I learned how to use that to my advantage and be able to manipulate the bike if I need it, and now I'm a huge fan. So yeah, you should.
Mm.
Have you tried it lately on your bike?
Not on the my most recent bike. I
Okay.
think I did it like second or third year in big bikes. Like what somebody told me to put it pretty stiff because like the Hondas came with that built-in steering stabilizer
Yep.
for a couple years, and I was like, man, that's super cool. And someone was like, hey, just tighten yours a little bit, and it felt awkward. But I remember I did after a while. I was like, oh, okay, I kind of have as much as it does again connect the front end and rear end, so you don't have as much independent movement. Um, it almost feels like once you get used to it, you do have a bit more control in a way. You know what I mean? So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I gotta do some bike work later, so I'll probably mess with that and do some other little tweaks and throw on my Phoenix handlebars, Moto Academy editions. So
Did you get you?
yeah,
Did you get you some?
yeah. Jason sent me a care package a couple weeks ago, so your boy got to throw those on.
Did you get the bar
I've been
pad?
got the bar pad. Yep,
Ooh, yeah. I've been seeing more
got
and
the
more
bar
and more
pad.
of the bar pad. I see Mitchell finally got it on his bike. Shout
Yep,
out Coach
yep,
Mitchell. I know that driver Jamie is installing a set on my bike, so I'll see that bike next
yep.
week. I got to get a set on
Maddie,
the Stark. The problem
yeah,
is,
Matty Flood has his too. I think on his throwback retro brand new YZ250. I think he's got a set on there too.
did you say Manny?
Matt Flood.
Oh, oh.
Oh, I
Speaking,
didn't tell you. Did I? Manny snapped his other Achilles.
huh?
Yeah, Manny snapped his other Achilles. So he snapped one playing basketball a couple years ago and healed up really nicely. And he just snapped his other one again yesterday.
Doing on a dirt bike?
I think it was basketball.
Oh, wow.
So somehow he hasn't. And Manny's tall, so like I don't. And he's got that pretty decent heel drop too. And I'm like, dude, how did you not do it on the dirt bike yet? But you're doing it playing basketball, dude. And you're like a seasoned like pro almost in basketball. So yeah, I don't know, man. But
Oh,
now I gotta
bummer.
ship him my yeah, I gotta ship him all my like my knee scooter and like all my like ankle braces and stuff for
My
my
knee scooter.
Achilles tear.
Man, that sucks.
It does, man. It does.
Yeah.
So now he's out. He's out for the season. I was looking forward to him possibly coming to summer camp and mixing up with the boys because they're Manny can ride, man. So now we
Yeah.
gotta wait a whole other year for him to heal up.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I'm curious to see him back on the bike. I forget the
Yeah.
last time I saw him, but it's got to be going close to 2 years, maybe.
Mm,
I don't know. I want. It
I
feels like it's been
think
about 2 years.
it
Um,
might have even been longer, if I'm being
maybe.
honest with you.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a. I want to say it was. Um, what the heck is that track called in Boyd, Texas? I think it's in Boyd, Texas.
Oh, Iron Dog.
No, but I know
Is
that
that
one.
it?
I know that one you're talking about.
Yeah.
No, it's escaping me. Creekside. Did you ever go to Creekside?
I haven't.
I think oh no, it's in Marion, Texas. So I think he went there because I remember getting oh, this podcast is just going off the rails. What the heck is the popular food in Texas? Barbecue. We got
Brisket?
pulled pork after class, and that's how I remember it. And I'm pretty
Mm,
sure it was at Creekside. And I want to
okay.
say that would have been probably 2 years ago. Speaking of summer camps, though, we just booked a 5 day spring break camp
Oh, yeah.
at Motoland in Arizona. So by the time this podcast goes live, go to the Moto Academy website, sign up for that now. It's in Arizona, 5 days straight. Basically the same exact
It's gonna
structure.
sell out.
It's going to be,
It's gonna sell out.
it's
Yeah.
going to, 'cause we're going to have to cap it there for sure because
Hmm.
I'm paying a lot of money for the track rental because it's going to be a lot of work
Yeah.
for those guys to get this thing good. We're going to have the main track going all week. We're going to have the vet track going all week. Each track will be fully prepped every single day because that's
Yes.
why the track rental is going to be so expensive. But I have to do it that way there because it's too dry. If I just let the track go 2 days in a row, it would never be.
It bake. Yeah.
It'd bake way too bad. So
Yeah.
full track prep every single day on the main track and the vet track, and then we're going to do full prep on the Supercross track for 2 of those days. So that's going to be fun. They have lights set up that we can use. We'll set it up so it's like safe enough for everybody for the week. It's going to be a blast. And that's going to
Oh, for
be
sure.
I think March 9th to the 13th. Don't quote me on those dates, but I'm pretty sure. Dave, are you going to go to that one? We got to get you there.
I don't think I have a choice, man.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. You're right.
TMAZ is just too it's too influential, it's too impactful. The guys are so awesome there. It's gonna be an absolute bash. I mean, think about how much fun we had in just 2 days there, and extend that. Like it's gonna happen every single day, every single night. We're gonna have more people there, more of that super passionate TMA fan base. It's gonna be amazing. I highly recommend. Even if you're not in the area, that is one to go to for sure. I love my New Hampshire people. I love going home. TMAZ, that'll give it a run for its money, man. That's going to be a huge one for the entire crew. I'm excited. The minute I saw that, I was like, oh, that's going to be good. There's going to be some, there's going to be some fun at that one,
It
man.
there it just a 1 day class, don't get me wrong, it's super fun. I love doing the tour
Yeah.
because I get to see a lot of different people. But
Yeah,
five
of
days straight,
course.
I've said this before, is really something special. I mean, you get to see people
Yes.
change in a big way by the end of
Hmm.
that week. And Arizona, I'm just grateful that we were able to make it happen there because of Anywhere. We have such a loyal following in Arizona.
Yes.
So many people dedicated to Moto Academy and really trying to level themselves up and do it the right way. It's super cool. We're going to start doing more and more of these week long events is the plan. So this one's going to be in March. We already have the summer camps booked for 2025 for June, July, and August. And then we've got tracks situated. We're basically just waiting to zero in on the exact dates for December and for January. So we're going
Mm.
to have December, January, February, and March. Oh, so we're going to have four plus three summer camps. So we're going to do 7 week long events this next year, and moving forward, that would be the cadence. It's going to be a
Oof.
lot, but they're too fun. But
They are.
I can't not do it that way.
Yeah, it's gonna be an absolute blast, and you get the whole TMAZ or the TMA crew along with the TMAZ crew. It's gonna be just so much fun, man. I implore people to please sign up before it sells out. You do not want to miss these events. They are so much fun.
And the early bird special going on right now is 20% off. So it's $1,000 for the week. You could save $200, and it's
Oh,
$800. Lock your spot in,
no
save a couple
brainer.
$100.
No brainer.
Yeah, it is definitely a no-brainer. So go do that. You can use we have something on the website. It's called Affirm, I think, or something similar to that, to where it's
Affirm.
0%
Yeah.
interest, which anytime, by the way, little tip, this is coming from somebody that anytime I usually buy something, I can afford to buy it outright in cash. But if there's a 0% interest rate, do the 0% interest rate,
Oh
because
yeah.
something about cash flow is the more you can spread out and or delay your payments owed, your payments going out, it helps your cash flow. And the more frequently you can get paid. So if you have the option to get paid weekly or bi-weekly from your employer, let's say, it's always better to get paid more frequently, just the way that cash flow works out. And for a business, when you're having a lot of money going in and a lot of money going out, that makes a huge difference. So yeah, use that on the website, 0%, lock your spot in, save a couple $100. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to announce the other three that we're going to be doing in the other months too, because they're all in different
Ooh.
locations. We're basically hitting,
Exactly.
we're going to be covering all of our major regions in
Yeah.
the US at least. And then,
Yep.
did I tell you we're bringing in Al? So Moto from the app
Yep.
is going to
Yep.
be our tour manager. Did I tell you that already?
Shout out Al. He messaged me yesterday. We were chatting a little bit during the race, so shout out to Moto again. But yeah, we talked about him last weekend.
We did.
Yep. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that one. It's gonna be a really good addition to the team.
Yeah, so
But man,
I mean, we're
it's
gonna
gonna be a
just take the
bash.
tour and everything to do with these booking events to the next
Yeah.
level.
Yep.
It's interesting how oh yeah, because I was talking about Hannah leaving, right? And I explained
Hmm.
how it's now created
Yeah.
me. I have to get creative and make all these moves, and so now fast forward a week, I guess. Update on that. There's been a lot of reflecting in the last week on almost like it forces you to think first principles when it comes to your business. You
Yeah.
look at a person in a role or a process or a system or a procedure, and I can look at it kind of with fresh eyes, where sometimes I don't. A lot of times you're so in it, you might be doing something that doesn't make any sense, and you're doing it just because you're just doing it,
Yeah.
right? So like an example of that would be, oh, there's so many, but we have all of our coaches all the time at these week-long summer camps, right? But then I looked at it and I said, okay, but if we're going to be doing more 5-day events, it absolutely doesn't make sense to have every single instructor all there all at the same time. Like, you get a group of them there for sure,
Yeah.
but you
Yep.
still need to divvy people up. And then in my head,
Hmm.
I'm looking at it, I'm going, well, that means that we can then be booking other locations for single day tours the same week that we're doing a summer camp.
Hmm.
Duh.
Yeah.
There's so many small things like that that we weren't doing yet. And when I kind
Hmm.
of look at it with first principles, which just means like deducing back to the simplest form of something instead of just assuming. So many times you just assume that you do something a certain way because it's how you always have done it and you don't think otherwise.
Yeah. Yep.
So with Hannah going to take over her dad's business and with me moving people around to fill that spot, I am now looking at so many things in the business from completely fresh eyes, and it is so obvious why
Mm.
this was a good thing so fast.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's awesome. It's actually
Yeah. Oh, for
exciting
sure.
because I feel like now this is what will take us to the next step.
Oh,
And it
definitely.
wasn't even my
I think.
doing. It was Hannah coming to
The,
me saying that she was leaving. And
yeah.
within 7 days, it's like, oh, boom, next level. And this is why.
And the next I want to say 2 years with I mean it's always leveling up, but the next 2 years for TMA I think is going to have so much exponential growth. It's going to almost resemble but be greater than what happened when like it really got hardcore with the first version of the app. We started getting the a big initial rush of people like, hey, what is this? This is a cool new thing, you know? and it started to really elevate really fast. That the YouTube channel, I think the next 2 years are going to be so big with that exponential growth. I'm really excited to see what happens and like our conversations like during that time, be like, hey, isn't it crazy? Like everyone in TMA has a helicopter. Isn't that exciting? Did
Yeah,
you see
because
Jackson rappelling down to get groceries? It was cool.
it is, and that's progression in anything, right? You have your peaks
Yeah,
and your
yeah,
valleys and your
yeah.
plateaus, so it feels. Now, if you're looking at the Moto Academy from the exterior, it could appear as though that was the obvious spike, right? Of
Yeah.
the YouTube channel was taking off all at the same time as I
Hmm.
was partnering with Jet. And then as soon as I partnered with Jet, he went on to win every championship that he competed in while I was partnered with him.
Oh
Like,
man,
I mean,
couldn't have been a better script,
couldn't
honestly.
have timed that any better. Riding in the
Nope, nope.
exact way that I was already teaching, like, come on. I mean,
Yes.
it was perfect. Um, while training with them and the storyline of that and my riding and racing coming back to be a consistent
Hmm.
main event guy, where for 5 years prior to that I was not. So there's a lot of good storylines and like obvious progression all within
Hmm.
like a year. The last few years, or the not few, the last year and a half to 2 years have been the behind the scenes boring stuff to the outside people would be now we're getting our systems and procedures in place. I'm learning how to really run a business. And it's always
Yeah.
a learning process. I'm a student of it, but I am very good at it compared to what I was a year and a half ago or 3 years ago
Oh,
or
for
5
sure,
years
for
ago.
sure.
I'm starting
Yeah.
to figure that out. So now it's ready for more of that outward, obvious, creative, um, exciting big campaigns. Like because we have a lot of things that are
Mm,
going to be Winchester's obviously one that would be cool.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's fun. But what's nice is the mantra I always repeat to myself is that
Hmm.
I have more than I would ever need, and yet this is the least amount that I'll ever
You'll ever
have,
have.
or that the Moto
Yeah.
Academy will ever produce, or that
Yeah.
the smallest this company will ever be. If it
Yep.
didn't grow a single bit from right now, I am so grateful for everything that's like it's. I don't need a single thing more.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of the nice feeling is that I
Hmm.
know this is the smallest it will ever be, and it's only going to get cooler and better. But I am very content.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good place to be in,
Mm.
especially when you do have big lofty goals and like it keeps you motivated. It keeps almost like a sense of security, that you're um things are going to continue to keep leveling up. Like you have that assurance almost, so
Because I feel like
no,
I've done. I feel
it's
like I've
good.
done it. Like
Oh, for sure, for
in
sure.
my mind, it feels like it's done. I feel like there's no more wanting. Where I very much
Mm,
had a lot of wanting going on at one point in my life.
yeah. Yeah.
Where now it's as if it's already happened. To be quite honest, in my
Love
mind,
that.
you know how I
Love
talk
that.
sometimes. Like I say
Yeah.
things where people are like, "What? What did he just say?" Because it like it to me, it's obvious or it's already happened.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, who cares? Because it feels like it has.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and yeah, I love the part of gratitude in there too for where you are currently, which I feel like a lot of people don't do with their riding or even in their daily lives. It's like just the gratitude of where I am, and I'm so grateful to be here, and thank the Lord because it is a blessing to have what we have and all. Like I personally I don't do enough of that. Like Mary tells me all the time, she's like, Dave, you just had this amazing thing happen where you signed this big sponsor or you had this great opportunity to partner up with this or that or that. She's like, you're not even celebrating. I'm like, yeah, I gotta worry about this next thing now. And she's like, yeah, you say like, yeah, good job. Like you do a fist pump for like 2 seconds and then you forget all about it. And I am so bad about that of being like, oh man, that was actually really cool. I'm really grateful for you know what I mean?
Are you better now than
So
you were with that, or do you feel like that is something you actively need to be working on?
with certain things, yes. With the collective, not remotely, dude. Because I always tell people like the collective is at like 0.5% of where I envision the brand going and being. So I'm not at all good with the collective stuff, dude. Like there's been great things that happened this year that are like, holy crap, I would have never thought that would have happened, and was like, oh, that's neat. And then we're on to the next thing, and Mary's like, whoa, slow down, dude. You talked about that as a dream a handful of years ago, you know?
Mm.
So, yeah, it's been uh, other things. Oh, dude, like if I leave the track, which is so crazy for me, and I know you were like this in the past, AJ, where like if I'm there and I'm not like shining and doing amazing, it is a terrible day. But now I go to the track and I'm like, you know what? I was happy. Like I really those three things, my feet, eyes, and elbows, they were solid today. I can go home. Yeah, I got passed on the track. Yeah, I didn't hit this corner as fast as I wanted to, but I had those three things locked. Good day at the track. That was awesome, you know? So like I'm like that with that and other things, but with the business, it's a little different. We're getting there. We're building, you know?
Yeah, I used to be really bad at it. No
Yeah.
question. Really, really bad at it. If somebody had like told me to sit down and create a list of things I was grateful for, I couldn't have
Hmm.
even done that. Even if somebody
Yeah.
forced me to sit down and try to think of it, I couldn't really even think of it.
It's
Now that's my
hard.
main practice every day. So most of
Yeah.
my meditations, all of my mantras, I think every single one of my
Hmm.
mantras essentially are really based around gratitude.
Yeah.
There's something that it
Yeah.
does that makes me feel like I already have it, it's already done, that it's already created. I don't need anything more added on to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It just gives me
No, for
that
sure.
feeling, and I can summon that feeling quickly when I
Yeah.
focus on gratitude. And it
Oh,
also makes
definitely.
me pay attention and be aware of things that are equal to that. So I'm
Yes.
recognizing more good things. Where before, when I was not grateful, I was just focused on what I didn't have. And so
Mm.
I would be set off and impatient with certain things that would happen. I would be pissed off by
Hmm.
certain things that would happen. I would be
Hmm.
jealous of things that would happen. And I was only recognizing those things because I was operating out of a place of, I don't have this yet.
Yeah. Yep.
It's two different realities, very much so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's difficult because we're programmed to like be critical of ourselves. Like I
it's
feel
how we stay alive,
like
technically. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Like I can guarantee you like if you and I rode together, you were more complimentary of me and like Dave, like you're doing so much, you know, like you're doing so good than I was of myself and that you were of yourself. Like I could come up to you and be like, AJ, you were freaking, do you see like you wheelied that whole section? You'd be like, yeah, but like my feet were, you know, off a little bit or my eyes weren't up. And it's like it's so much easier to like to see the value and the um I don't know that gratitude in other people or gratitude for the other
That
people and
right
what they're
there is the
capable
value of the
of.
Moto Academy.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
because
And it goes
you
back to what we
can't
talked about last
help
week.
but to start to adopt
Yeah.
that way of thinking because everybody around you is being so positive
Yes.
for you that it's
Oh,
like
come on.
you couldn't
Yeah.
help but to eventually be a cheerleader of yourself because everybody else is your cheer, like
Exactly.
in the best way,
And
right?
that snowballs in because then it creates confidence in that person of like, holy crap, I posted a video of coaching wanted and everyone was so helpful. Now they've got I love the freaking get out of here. Now they've got the confidence to like want to post more, want to implement better things, and the confidence leads them to be a better rider, you know, because they're getting positive feedback on this thing that they did. So yeah, that's the power of the app, dude. It's just it's crazy for that. Like I can post so many things, not only where I get some amazing zingers from like, you know, people who are like family now, but like, dude, people will be like, Dave, like you look really good in this one section, man. Like keep it up. And I'm like, holy crap, I thought I looked awful, but this is good. Now I want to charge even harder and be better at the fundamentals even more to kind of, you know, continue to get that progression or even this just the accolades, you know? Like it's really interesting how that works. But yeah, I think we all, you know, could be better at that mindset of like, you know what, gratitude for where we are, gratitude for what we have, gratitude for what's to come, and just really being appreciative of each step, the where we came from, where we are now, and where we're going. You know?
Yeah, for me it's just it is the easiest to access, which is nice
Yeah.
because it is up there with one of the more powerful. I just read a book, finished it last night, The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. Have you read that before?
Mm, I have not. I've heard of that in the first book you mentioned, the intentional. What was it?
Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor
Man
Frankl.
sense for
Yeah,
meaning.
that's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
famous
Yep.
one.
Yep. Yeah.
Neville Goddard has a few, I want to say, yeah, I have Power of Awareness right behind me, but that copy has every single one of the books that he's written in that one book. I had
You
never
know what's
read
a good
I
one?
never read the one behind me because it was too intimidating of a book. It was too big, so I never started it.
Oh, okay.
So I was
Yeah,
at Barnes
yeah,
and
I
Noble the
see.
other day hanging out with Millie because it's like her favorite spot to hang out is Barnes and Noble, which is cool.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
And got Power of Awareness, which is a really small book in itself. And I think it also had Awakened Imagination at the end of it. Book recommendation, pause this podcast, go order it. The book is freaking amazing. You got to get it. But
Yeah.
it basically just talks
Yeah.
about how basically consciousness, your awareness on something is the only reason that it's a reality in the first place. So therefore, where your awareness is placed is what your reality is. And it says this.
You know what's crazy? You when you mention stuff like this, it just, and maybe this is the flavor of autism that I have, but it always comes back to like it's a relatable principle for Moto. It's like you go where your eyes look. Like wherever your eyes are is like that crash is real because you looked at that and focused on crashing. If you kept your eyes up and you kept them you kept on the right mindset and the right technique, that would have never been a thing. But because you were focused on it, you brought it into existence. Like I always try to like bring things back um to seat time. Like okay, so like you know when me and Mary were getting ready to buy the house, we talked at length. Me, you, I talked to Allie. I was like, I don't want to buy a house because the minute I buy the house, something bad's gonna happen, and it's a bunch of money. And house prices are so expensive out here. We live in Austin during the big boom where everyone's moving to Austin, and it was just this huge like I was so afraid. And then I thought back to like, oh, Dave, it's only scary because it's new. Like there were plenty of jumps on the track where you were like dreading them, and you actually hit them, and you're like, you know what? Not so bad. And the more you hit the same jump, the more you can translate that into going to other tracks and hitting similar jumps. So those things don't become scary anymore. And dude, sure enough, the more I like was like, you know what? All right, going with the mindset of like it's scary because it's new. It's just a new jump. And what happens every jump I hit? After a while, it becomes second nature, not even a thought anymore. And dude, like that whole house buying process was cake. Once I looked at it like that, I'm like, oh, okay, just learn this, learn that, go for it, do this, make sure you got a backup for this and that. Boom. We had a house like 3 weeks later. You know what I mean? So, and that's just one small insular example. There's millions of examples, but
It's
I
all the
love
same
when
thing.
principles.
It's all the same
It
thing. It's
is.
all,
Yeah.
yeah. And this book does a really good job of simplifying that. Some things that I read, and it's good, I
Yeah.
think, to learn a lot into sometimes books that I read are very overcomplicated. Like another
Yeah.
book I just started last night after I finished that one was Gaber Mate. Do you know who that guy is? I'm sure I'm saying his name
Mm-mm.
wrong. He's super
Mm-mm.
old guy with big gray eyelash or eyebrows. If you saw him if you saw a picture of him, you know who I'm talking about.
Mm.
He's a psychiatrist and talks a lot about traumas and just explaining like
Mm.
what trauma is. And he worked with PTSD people from Vietnam and got to learn a lot about. And he was becoming a psychiatrist and getting out of school when
Mm-hmm.
SSRIs and all the antidepressants and medications were becoming a thing. And they worked so well at the
Uh,
beginning because they were testing them on these people at psychiatric wards that were high level of PTSD, basically like
mm.
non-functioning. And these
Yeah.
antidepressants were pulling those people out of that enough so they could basically live a normal life. But then they just started everybody was using antidepressants to solve even
Yeah.
more minor cases. But
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. It kind of tells the history of that and how now we're coming back to a point where people are learning to address more of the root of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Why was I talking about this? Anyhow, oh, this book is very detailed and complicated.
Mm.
The Neville Goddard book, it basically just repeats the same thing over and over. And it says the secret to life is to assume the reality of that you want to be living.
Yeah.
That's it. So place your attention on that of what you want, envision it as detailed as you can in your mind, and it will be, if you do that persistently, it is inevitable that it will become a reality. So if you're
Mm.
riding, and this takes place, and this is something in every part of life, because where your attention is your reality. If you're
Yep.
riding and you're thinking, I don't want to go in that rut, or I don't want to hit that tree, you're envisioning yourself hitting the tree because you're trying to tell yourself to avoid it. So what do? You hit the
Yeah.
tree, or you go in the rut,
Yep.
the rut you don't want to hit. Or when you're
Yep.
afraid to buy the house, it's very easy to imagine all these scenarios where like you picture your bank account being lower or trying to sell the house and you not having money or whatever your fear is when you're going to purchase
Yeah.
the house. You're just making up all of these fake scenarios and wasting your mental capacity to just be inventing and creating a
For sure.
scenario you don't want. So it's just awareness and just
100%.
being aware, just paying attention to be able to be conscious enough to catch yourself when you're being unaware and letting your mind drift
Yep.
and onto things that it shouldn't.
Exactly.
I am clearly obsessed with learning about that type of stuff because it's the
Yeah.
biggest thing I struggle with.
Same.
Yeah.
100%. Same. Yep. Not for nothing. Mary did flood the house the week we got it. But back to Seattle. What I really liked about Roxon this weekend.
Anyhow, Sexton looked good. Plessinger looked pretty quick out there.
Right towards the end of the race, I was like, okay, like, are we gonna get another repeat of what was it, like 2017, 18, where AP just dominated in the mud on the Star Yamaha 250 and did a belly flop in the mud, and like, are we gonna get him coming through the pack and like another,
Did he get third?
another AP?
I think he did.
Oh, because Cooper ended up going down.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So
I was going to
it ended
say
up
at the
being-
end of the broadcast, it started cutting in and out. I don't know if people watching at home also experienced that, but the whole thing started cutting in and out. So I just lost track of what was going on.
Yeah, no, it was that was a really good one, and I love to see. I think this is probably the first time in a long time. AJ, please tell me if I'm wrong. That we saw Kenny fight back with Webb. I can't tell you how many races we were sitting at where I just wanted to get up and leave. Just watching Roxon seemingly roll over for Webb, and this was a time where I was like, "Let's go!" That is Ken Roxon. That's Ken Roxon right there, like fighting back. Did he end up, winning the main event? No, but at least he put up a fight, and that's what a lot of people have been really, really gunning on him about, man, and really being very particular about the things that he's done in the past couple of years. Is that he will not fight back when Webb is on him. He will hit the outside. He'll let Webb get on the inside and stuff him and take his line away. And this was a Kenny of like, pre-broken arm Kenny. Kenny was fighting. He won in that position on a seemingly inferior bike. Like, come on. That was pretty freaking cool to see them dicing back and forth and giving us some cool racing. Kenny seemingly being a bit more better in the whoops initially. And then as they broke down, maybe it was more even. Maybe Webb had a good run here or there. But man, it was really cool to see Roxon being that dicey, that aggressive, and like almost like combative out there on the track. I love that. That was so cool.
I wish he had stuck to skimming the whole night. There was a few guys that I wish had stuck with skimming because Beaumer even was very fast. Obviously, it was the heat race at first when I saw him skimming them really fast. But the guys that stuck with skimming seemed like it worked out well. Like Davies killed it. Davies skimmed the whole time through, looked clean doing it. I would have.
And you know what's crazy is Roxon's setup looked like it was better if you did skim because that's Kenny's style. And like I feel like if he would have trusted his setup, which a lot of riders don't have that luxury, AJ. There are times where you're like, I wish I had a setup that allowed me to skim this thing the whole time, like that give me that confidence when it gets this bad. If anybody had that to like in their back pocket, it was Roxon.
Yeah, and so I don't know at what point he aborted mission on that, but that's skimming the whoops was a difference maker. You saw Ferrandis pass somebody early on in that main event. Forget who, but just skimmed right by him because they were jumping.
Yeah.
Big difference. Roxon, he did a good job of holding those guys off longer than he probably should have in that race. Just based on, you could tell he was maybe feeling a little bit of that pain or just a little under the weather. It just didn't seem as completely froggy as normally Roxon is. But he fought for it tooth and nail, and even when he got him, I think, did he get him right back? I think he did get him right back.
It was like maybe like half a lap or a lap later. Like it was quick. It was a quick one. But there have never been so many collective like oohs and ahs of the crowd as like this past weekend. You could literally hear it. It was like everybody was like sunken in, dude. Like we all had like the same Bluetooth sync in, and everyone was like, ooh, ah, whoa, no. Like it was so insane. Like the entire crowd. That was really cool. But yeah, I was just happy to see that kind of racing, and the fact that this Seattle track allowed for some pretty aggressive riding. I want to say it's relatively rare for Seattle. Normally it's either greasy from the rain, overly rutted, or slick in certain spots just from constantly being ridden over. But like just watching those guys charge going from like that right hand sweeper up into like over the start finish and then into that one corner before the finish line. Um, Man, that was really cool to see those guys hanging out, hitting the outside, maybe drifting a little bit, getting the back end a little bit squirrely. Like that, they were on it, man. And if you would have asked me at the beginning of the race, even the middle of the race, who was going to win, I would have said Chase Sexton. The way he was moving, the way he was matching those guys lap for lap. But man, Webb cannot be denied. I want that kind of like dog in me, man. I want that kind of fight when it comes down to my races. The same that Webb had, that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, huh? I mean, Sexton was faster, so it seemed. And
Yeah,
then it's, yeah, pretty incredible. Pretty incredible.
yeah.
Webb is just so good at that.
He is.
And
Did you race Webb a lot in amateurs? I
no,
think you
because he
were
was younger.
like a age group ahead. Yeah, yeah, you were
He
age
was
group
the
ahead.
age group
Yeah,
just below me, so I don't think I ever
yeah.
raced him as an amateur.
Mm.
But there's always those guys that you would know that had that same type of personality, and you could always count on them just basically being annoying to race against, because
Y-
it was like even the
Yeah,
days that you felt
they're always
really
there.
good, it was like this guy
Yep.
is like an annoying mosquito, you know?
Yeah,
Just like get
yeah.
out of here. Like I'm feeling good today. Would you just let me have this one
Can I
or
have one? Oh my! You know who was bad at that?
who?
You and Chris Corey at Moto Town. You were the worst, dude. Because I was like, AJ, you win everything. Let me have this one, dude. Like dude, I'm running. I got a top 3 start. Like I'm finally getting the hang of this freaking big bike 4 stroke. Because back then I was skinny. I was like, dude, I'm finally getting the hang of it. Like, come on, dude. Like, get off of me. And I can still hear your super mini like, meh, 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 meh. I'm like, ugh, leave me alone. It's like an annoying gnat, you know? I'm like, oh, and I can't ride you dirty because like number one, you have more skill than I do, so you'd see it coming. But also, like, you're my buddy. I'm not gonna be a dick, but please, I want a trophy. My dad's really mean. Let me
And
get a
this was
trophy,
when
dude.
this was big bike class, so 250F or 125, but I was on a super mini or
So yeah, it was I don't even know if the class are the same anymore, but it's 250B under.
yep.
Because we weren't we weren't men yet. And like under 18. And yeah, you rode your super mini all the time there, which arguably the supercross tracks that we had very well suited for super minis
Oh yeah.
125s. Like they were almost like that was like the perfect weapon. So big 250F, maybe a little bit much for these, but like you had the perfect line, the perfect momentum every single time, and it made it so hard to keep you behind us because you usually generally you wouldn't get the best start, but you
Right.
get a pretty decent one. And I had that track pretty dialed. Like that was one place where I was like, okay, I feel like I'm capable of winning here. But man, you were just all, especially after you would go to Minios and then come back and be like, oh great, now he's gonna be even faster. Down with Tomac, he probably learned some stuff now. And dude, it was so annoying because I'd usually get a better jump and like corners where like I enjoyed corners. So like you wouldn't really gain that much in corners, but dude, your jumps, the on offs, the whoops, I'd be like, okay, where's he gonna stuff me now? I was just so annoyed. It's either you would set me up in a very obvious pass, or you do something so disrespectful and technical that I'd be like, well, thanks, AJ. Now I'm gonna be grounded because I didn't see that coming.
I'm gonna be
But,
grounded.
like
I
I
wish
didn't.
that there was some
Oh,
videos that because I forget about this actually, and I don't know if I've really told many stories about it. There was a
mm.
year where I was racing the Super Mini, and you don't see this happening now. Do you ever see Super Minis racing in the big bike class? Because I don't think I've seen it.
No, generally you don't. I mean, maybe at like a local level, but you don't see it for like bigger events. And maybe it's because we were younger, but I feel like even our local stuff almost felt like regionals because we had so much talent and so many people. But it was almost a given. Yeah. If you were about to move to big bikes, you spend like half a season or even a season racing your big wheel in the full size
Yeah,
class.
and
Like
I
that was almost a given.
comment below. Is that common now? I don't know. I feel like I haven't seen that in a while, but
I don't see that
I
ever.
wish there were more videos of that because on the Super Mini racing the big bikes, and this was all 250Fs from what I remember, maybe some 125s tossed in there. I would
Yeah.
always start around like 5th to 10th,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure I would always either win or be right up there. I can't remember who, because I remember doing some at Walden, and it was even harder to get a good start because
Oh,
it was a proper outdoor
don't get
track.
me started. Don't get me started,
And
dude.
I had
That
some comebacks at Walden in the Super Mini on 250F class on the Super
insane.
Mini that were
Insane.
stupid, and I wish we had them on film because I
I hated that. I hated at Walden. It was the worst because I had no shot of winning at Walden. I hated that track, but
I loved
just
it.
the fact that I had no excuses. There's no reason why I should be getting pulled by a suspiciously stock 85 up a up a hill from an off camber corner. There's no reason for that. So like, dude, to see you cut through the pack. And even when I started getting like, oh, I got a top 5 star, I can finish out top 5 here. Just to hear like that little freaking like bumblebee coming through the whoops, like the da 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 da. Oh, dude, I was like, all right, well, thanks, bitch. I'm getting grounded tonight. That was awesome.
I can't
It was
remember. I
so
must have done
frustrating.
it at Southwick too, but that would have been horrible. I can't remember any
Yeah.
experiences from Southwick doing it, but holy cow,
You did do it, but I
I
don't
must
think
have.
they were as I don't think they were as good as like
They
Walden. Like I remember
couldn't
you,
have been because Walden, I remember some
Barsha did
comebacks that
it.
were stupid good.
Yeah, Barsha did it on the
Hmm.
in the 250B, 125B back then. And he obviously yarded everybody. That was his track, and he had just come back from the Reddit or something. I think Torrance did it for a while. Um, I think Phelps did it, and you know who I remember doing it? Why can't I think of their name? I'm gonna be so pissed, dude, because we were good buddies back in the day. Um, 399 on the Suzuki.
Oh, Tyler Holmes.
Tyler Holmes. Yeah, him and LJ. They would
LJ.
always
Yo,
do
now
it.
we're
And it'd
saying
be
a bunch of names that we forgot last podcast. Phelps is a good one. Austin Phelps
Yeah,
was
Phel-
very fast. Drew
yeah,
Torrance
very
was
very
very
fast.
fast. We forgot about him last time.
Yep. Yeah. But yes, dude, Tyler Holmes was a ripper on his Super Mini. LJ was a ripper on his Super
Yeah.
Mini. Yeah, it was hard to stay with those guys, dude. They constantly yarded me, man. Like even their Super Minis in the big bike class, I was like, all right, well, I hate this sport.
Yeah, there's a lot of fast
So
guys. Even there was levels to it, of course, because you had like the elite. There was only maybe a couple of those, right? And then you had like,
yeah,
but the step below the elite, there was a lot of
a lot of fast.
really
And
fast
let
dudes.
me. What do you think bred that? Because really, a lot of guys they didn't come from like oh my dad was like a big hot shot racer. We had all this money. We're rich or something. Like they were pretty like working class like people. They didn't get a chance to go down to the facilities that often, if ever, or even travel down south during the winter time. What do you think allowed for such a huge spread of very capable, very fast, very young riders that had that skill? Like what was it? Because really, the cards were stacked against them, but there was a lot of really fast kids.
I think it was just a great era of accessibility. There were tracks everywhere. People were riding
Mm,
sand pits everywhere. I mean, even in just Portland and Glastonbury alone in Connecticut, where I am, you
yeah.
had Beamers in Glastonbury, which was an awesome sand pit. I had
Hmm.
McBrien's, which was a track in the woods that he only let me ride, which was kind of cool. We
Yeah.
had Rocky Hill, which was 15 minutes for me. You had Moto
Yep.
Town for the stint that I was there, which was perfect timing for when I was growing up. That was 30 minutes for
Yep.
me. You had
Yep.
what felt like a million tracks that were sort of in like the Granby, Southwick area,
Oh,
like
dude.
a lot of
Remember that
private
super
tracks.
secret
But I
sand
was
track?
there
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
there was one, oh, this is gonna bug me. Did you ever go to this private track? It was in the woods. The person's house was right there. It was in a gully of a hill, huge gully of a hill. And the parking lot would come up. And where the parking lot came up, there was this jump up over the hill and it would go straight down, down, down. And there was a bull turn at the end of it and right back up.
Oh, that was in like
Starts with a
not like
G.
South, not like South Windsor or anything like that. It was
It was named after the
I
guy that owned it.
yeah, not Stellinus's.
No, we're
Woodgers.
Yes, yeah,
Oh man,
Woodgers.
that place was Woodgers. That
Yeah,
was
I think you're right.
awesome. That was a super fun track, dude. I personally like every time I get a new computer, I save those Woodgers photos because that track was really really fun,
Really
and that
fun.
was close to Southwick.
Lee
Yeah,
Helliwell
that
had
was
a
close to
track at
Southwick.
his house that was sick. By the way, shout out Hellion Designs. We're also having him do a bunch of the Moto Academy custom
Shout out,
lids.
so good.
He's
at
who
what he
did my
does.
lids, as you know, my entire life. So I always had the sickest custom painted helmets, and they were always Hellion Designs helmets. So he had a track at
So
his
cool.
house that I rode.
Do you know who was the most proud of your helmets?
Who, my dad, definitely.
Tony Cat, dude.
Oh,
Tony
yeah.
Cat would be like, "Hey," he'd always say, D, come here, D. Look at this. Look at this. Do you see that? You see the gold flake in there?" I was like, "Yes, Mr. Catanzaro, it's really nice. I'm just gonna throw on my Ocelot racing helmet for the third season in a row." But
Picking
but no,
up
dude, he was so stoked on those
the
helmets.
pickup and the reveal of the helmet out of the unzip and the unbagging of the helmet case when
Oh,
I would get those
dude.
things custom painted was probably the most
So sick.
exciting time of the year. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure I would at least get one new one. I think it was one new one every year. So I'd always
Yeah.
get that one brand new. And what was cool is Lee was definitely the type and still is where you could kind of just tell him to go nuts and he'd create what he would want to
It'd be
create.
amazing.
So I would just give
Yeah.
him a couple of basic ideas, maybe a
Yeah.
color, one specific color that I wanted to have
Mhm.
highlighted in there. Like I definitely like the bright orange, sort of the bright orange that Deegan has in his helmet. It just pops so nice.
Yeah.
And then he would just go nuts and they would always come out so good.
Mm.
Speaking of bright orange, Deegan's kit.
Oh.
That was the first thing
Dude,
I
I
saw
thought-
from the race. Is I saw just an Insta clip and I looked
Pretty
and it was the
cool.
jail one, prisoner
Yeah,
outfit type,
pretty
the
cool.
black and white.
Dude, they are marketing this whole like lockup deal so much. Number one, the t-shirts, the content, and now you've got the collab gear. I'm almost like, was this on purpose? Because like, dude, this is all happening so fast, and you know if they come out with that limited edition gear, it's gonna sell out.
Yeah, and
Like that,
it's
you know what I
smart. It's
mean?
obvious. It's obvious, but
It
it's
is.
smart because there's nobody else at that level right now, 250 or 450, that's leveraging their platform really at all.
Yeah,
Farther?
it's. I mean, like, not in the 250 class. Honestly, I don't. I think there are riders that have the opportunity to lean into it, like a Davies or a Beaumer, you know, or even a Shock. Like Cody Shock is a people's champ right now. Like that dude could have
Yeah.
you know, some sort of collab or some sort of deal where he could really make something happen. But the only other person I could think of that really is using something like this to their full advantage is Jet. You know, like he does a pretty good job at it.
Yeah, but their stuff has
but
kind of gotten boring and kind of uninvolved the last few years.
Yeah, almost like autopilot.
Yeah.
But you know, it's so crazy seeing the bad boy persona and how much, like, love it or hate it, dude. It's the kid can back it up. He's super fast and he's making his money. I'm not mad at it. Do your thing, homie. But you look at somebody like that and you're like, man, that's actually pretty cool. If you look at somebody like a Jason Lawrence that like is essentially that same persona and really didn't do much with it other than like get a bad reputation. The guy is so fast and everyone loves Jason Lawrence because he is such a good rider, says what he thinks. I'm a big fan. But like
The
to see
difference
that he's
was
like,
that I think that Lawrence's was completely unconscious and accidental, where Deegan's is, yes, he's a young kid and is going to kind of say stupid things and do stupid things, but he has direct, complete guidance from his dad. So that's conscious that they're doing that. There's stuff that's obviously didn't get arrested on purpose, right? But everything the second that happened was completely intentional.
Brian saw dollar signs. He was like, oh, what happened? Okay, we're going to make some money off of this one.
Yeah, so he leans into the
crazy.
character for sure. It's like somebody commented on one of my Instagram things the other day and they said rage bait. And I was like, what? I had to Google it. I'm like, what does rage bait mean? And apparently rage bait means like when you'll do something intentionally to get people to sort of hate on it. So it's like basically trolling, knowing that people are going to be pissed off about what you're doing.
And it's really great for engagement. Like if you were to go on there and say like, oh, this Sunday the race is really great instead of Saturday, people are just going to comment like, oh, you're an idiot. It's Saturday. No, it's Saturday. So all the people are freaking, they're engaging on it. They're commenting, which shows the algorithm, oh, people must really like this thing. So that is huge in social too. But yeah,
That's
some of
what he
this
is.
probably is
Deegan
rage
is a
bait.
walking
Yeah,
version of
it's
that, basically,
exactly.
right?
And you know what? I wish Lawrence would leverage that even today, like something like that. Because dude, he's online asking for like GoFundMe to fund a bike, which should be something that's so like easy for him to get. He's Jason Lawrence. He's a Supercross champion. You know what I mean? And he's got this persona behind him. But to maybe like that Brian Deegan element is, I mean, the guy is worth so much money. Not even if it's on paper, just the potential that comes out of that guy's brain and how to market and how to get cash out of a situation, or even twist a situation to be something that's a positive. It's pretty incredible, man. You got to give the guy his props.
Yeah, and everybody's capable of that too. I was watching a video of
Yeah.
Pastrana the other day where he was trying to do a 360 in his car,
Yeah.
and I was watching that video just thinking to myself, obviously, how creative of an individual Pastrana is.
Hmm.
Super, super, super crazy creative. And
Yeah.
obviously, same with Deegan. It's just entrepreneurial in every way, thinking how can you create value here so that you can um, earn different income streams from here and there. And
For sure.
every person in Supercross, I wish, could figure out a way to lean into that a bit more. The
Yeah.
the the I think what people struggle with is a lot of times they don't know what to lean into because they don't know who they are at all,
Mm,
especially when you're
yes.
young, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not everybody can lean into the rage bait type of behavior of a Deegan,
Oh, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
That is a little bit of who he is, and he just
Hmm.
leans into it. Where
Yeah.
with the Moto Academy, I'm sort of like I leaned into the kind of like straight lace, don't swear. I mean, I'm glad that I did
Hmm.
because it's provided a lot of value to myself, but I leaned into
Yeah.
that big time at the beginning.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so don't be afraid to do that. I wish there were more people that did it, but as soon as I saw his gear,
Hmm.
I was like, man, perfect. Like, loved it. I liked the black and white
Yeah.
one. I like the orange
Cool.
one even more, and it was kind of giving me ideas for our stuff too. The orange looked great because it didn't matter how far you zoomed out, you knew right where he was. You could see
Yeah.
him circulating the track the entire time. So it's just
Yeah.
sometimes what you think will look good as far as gear if you were designing it on a computer, or even if you just put it on and looked in the mirror, when you get on the bike and you're
Hmm.
out there riding, or when you see it on video, it's not
Yeah.
usually what you think looks good ends up looking good.
Correct. Correct.
Usually the more simple the better, or the brighter and the more bold of just one color. Like the bright orange I thought looked sweet.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
Definitely.
this might be new news. Did I say that we did not re-sign our deal with Fox? I said that already, right?
I don't think we talked about it on air.
Okay.
It's weird because we mention it. We talk about it so much, like in like the business side,
Yep.
like off of all this stuff. So it's hard to keep
I
straight like
know.
what we say
This
and
specifically
don't
because
say.
I do know that guy. I let everybody in the Moto Academy Mastermind text chat know the other day
Yeah.
that that was the case.
Yep.
So what month are we in? April 1st
Right.
is when I'm a free agent, so to speak, with gear, which is awesome because this is going to allow us to do what we've been wanting to do with Fox but haven't been able to do, which is a Moto Academy gear set.
Yeah.
And yet still allow me to I'm gonna wear the Fox boots still. They're my favorite boot, so I'm gonna keep wearing the Fox boot. And now it allows me to
Really?
figure out which helmet I want to wear, and I don't know yet. I'm leaning towards
Huh.
part of me wants to lean towards Bell.
Okay. Not a bad choice.
Uh Arai is always a
Ha-
good option. I just
yeah. Yeah. We've had good luck with the Rye over the years. I think the reason why I got my Rye sponsorship was because Tony saw you in Rye for like number of years and was like, we should talk to Rye. I was like,
Arai is
okay.
great too. Arai has supported me
They're
for a
really,
long time when like nobody
really
seemed to
good
be wearing
helmets.
them even. Now
Yeah.
there's more people that are in Arai's for sure. They've always been, I guess, pretty popular in New England for some
Yeah.
reason. It was like a
Oh,
New England
yeah.
helmet.
I don't know. I've loved them. The fit for me, I've got a
Very
bigger
comfortable.
head with and the hair. I've loved the way the Arise fit. I will say, since I've been a FXR rider, Andy's talked to me about the 6D helmet. So I've been with this in the 6D helmet for a little bit. I'm not angry at it either, dude. The 6D It feels pretty good. It's super lightweight. It's got a bigger shell, but it's not. I don't hate it, man. It actually feels really, really comfortable, and I love the fact that it has that those built-in features to prevent any sort of like acceleration change differential between the your brain moving, your head moving with like those conical isolators. Like that's really cool. But yeah, Bell is not bad either, man.
Is
I've
there
got a
one
Bell
that's
that I
supposed to
wore.
be more safe than all the others, or are all those kind of top ones like a Bell, a 60, and a Rye, or are they all in the
I
same
think
playing field as far as safety?
I think a lot of the helmets incorporate MIPS, which is basically an isolating feature from the inner liner to the outer shell. So basically, think about it, it's like a rubber band that's like stretching and using up the energy instead of just like energy going towards your head.
Yep.
I heard MIPS is really good, but I like the way that 60 does it because those isolators to me have a bit more like we call it like total freedom or like access
Sure.
of freedom where you're allowed to move as needed up and down and side to side, whereas the MIPS it's generally in like one direction, maybe two. But that, to me, that's why I like the 60 setup. They fit, they look cool, and like those features, you have just more access of freedom. I think between how it moves, given wherever you want the energy to go. But yeah, for me that's good. But there's something about the way a Bell helmet looks when it's either with their own designs or like a custom design. It just looks mean, man. And
There was a few
there's still
years where
some
I didn't
days.
like the shape of it, but I like the new ones,
Mm,
and
yeah,
I
the
I
9 and 10 they've had me in a chokehold, man.
I like the I loved my favorite looking helmet was the old style Fox helmet. Personally, the one
Mm,
that just got they stopped using it like 2 years ago or a year ago.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't. I think the new Fox helmet is. I bet you they'll change it quickly. I don't think it looks
Hmm.
as good, and it was less comfortable than the old Fox
Mm,
helmet. So I won't
gotcha.
stay in the new Fox helmet. If anything, I'll just go back to the old one and get them custom painted because what does it
Hmm.
matter? I'd rather just something
Yeah,
that
yeah,
looks cool and is the most comfortable.
yeah.
The Bell is definitely one I want to try. I'm just excited because it's just I'm ready to try something new up top. Gonna stick with the Fox
Yeah.
boots and
That's it. That's interesting for me. 'Cause,
the
like,
Fox boots.
you really like the Fox boots that
That
much.
much. Yeah, and I know people were like, "Yeah, you're just saying that because you're sponsored." Well, now, guys, I'm not sponsored, and I shouldn't be saying this because this means that Fox should be paying me money. But the Fox boot is the one I want to wear. Yeah, and maybe I could.
I did a I did a boot review in the app last week or the week before where I had the SG12s, the Tech 10s, and then the new CD Crossfires. And I kind of gave like my breakdown of like a scale of like 1 to 10. Obviously, they're going to be more of like the 7 to 10 because they're top of line boots. And my consensus was out of all of those, the Garnets to me felt like they offered the most in comfort, all around form, fit, function, durability. I really like the Garnets. What would be like your number two boot if you did not have the Fox option?
Oh,
What would be
easy.
the next boot
Tech
that
10.
you liked? Why the Tech Times?
It definitely could be because I wore them for about 15 years, but
Mm,
so that's probably the answer.
hmm.
But in wearing them for the 15 years, I just felt like I knew where my foot was. I could feel things, not nearly as well
Hmm.
as I can in the Fox. They definitely feel heavy compared to the Fox. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd like going back to the booty now, but I was at the time very comfortable with the booty.
Mm,
I
yeah.
felt safe in them, probably slightly more safe potentially than I feel in the Fox, but I feel completely safe in the Fox, so
Mm,
I can't say that. Um,
interesting.
yeah, just was super comfortable in them. And I think that's the
Okay.
with boots, you need to be able to have a boot that you are comfortable in and that you can feel and know where your feet are. Too many people,
Yes.
I was so surprised to learn this with basically in the last couple of years, it started to become obvious. People can't feel where their feet are on the foot pegs, most people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most people think that that's normal and they're just kind of dancing around. No wonder why their feet and their footwork is a mess because they don't know what's going on down there.
Yeah.
The Fox boot, I always know. Yeah, so I'm gonna stick with that. Helmet unknown, and then platform for gear unknown. So Canvas is sending us some stuff to try because what's nice
Okay.
about Canvas is I can private label that and do a TMA gear set. I don't know, and I haven't worn canvas stuff lately to see what that jersey and pant feels like. Um, yeah, so I'm curious. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah,
excited. But I'll wear Fox stuff
that
for
is
now. And
interesting.
Fox was cool. They sent me a bunch of stuff to get me through the time period of figuring out what's next. And it was interesting because if I
Mhm.
didn't talk about this yet on the podcast, my conversations with Fox really, it was completely couldn't have been any more of a mutual agreement of just like they wanted to continue going their direction of the fewer, the better, whatever the slogan was that or is
Mhm.
of really just sponsoring a couple of elite people and that's that where the Moto Academy is very
Yeah,
much the opposite and that's like inclusivity, like we're trying to reach everybody at the
everybody.
grassroots level. It's like in fact the quite
Yeah.
opposite of the marketing that Fox is trying to accomplish. And so the difficulty was Fox didn't really even have the manpower to be able to do anything the way that we wanted it and needed it to be done to be effective.
Yeah.
Now, me just wearing the gear is of a ton of value in itself because of how many views we get alone, right? Just on social media. But that's not where our conversations were based on. Like we wanted to
Yeah.
come up with cool, creative, different things. Um, and so it just didn't make sense for that reason. But it was a cool phone call
Mm.
because it was, or a couple of phone calls because it was so collaborative in that sense of like being as creative as we could to figure out what would be the best route. And then eventually, like the more we talked, it just kind of was like, well, probably this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It almost feels like to do it the way that I would need it done. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, and I could, yeah, I definitely see that. You know where I wanted you to go, but I, I
Yeah, I
definitely
just want
understand.
TMA. I just want Moto Academy gear, or at the very least, the proper collaboration gear set, like now.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
we're at that point to where that should be in 2 minutes. Like there'd be a lot of people wanting to wear it, so it just
yeah.
makes sense.
I'm just at every corner. I'm gonna always throw the FXR bug in your ear because you know how much I love those guys.
I love the fit of
So
FXR gear. If they wanted to do
yeah,
Moto
yeah,
Academy gear set, I would be in for that. I'd entertain any, and I
dude.
love the people at FXR.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, like I can't think of many other sponsors to where like I'll just text Andy just to like shoot the breeze and check in. You know, like the dude's just he's so cool. And what's funny is because he's from Canada, he knows a lot of the New England style tracks. He like
Yeah,
raced in New England a lot. So it's honestly it's like talking to like a Dowd or somebody about all the cool stories from back in the day. Like Andy's been around for a minute. He knows everybody and I love that whole group. Dude, they absolutely spoil me, dude. And I'm so grateful to those guys. But
yeah.
I'm just excited to see like where things shake up with TMA and what
FXR
we're
is
able to
definitely
offer.
is a good brand. There's
Yeah,
yeah. I didn't even actually think about that as an opportunity. Jackson editors note, reach out, see if there could be something there. Because
those are some fun years we had when you were in FXR. We had some really fun times, man.
they don't do any type of weird head to toe thing, right? You don't have to wear an FXR 60 whatever the heck helmet, or do you?
I don't know. I personally do because I like it. Andy talked to me about it briefly and it works for me. But no, I do whatever boots I want, goggles that I want, braces, the full deal. But I know there's some riders that like I think they are head to toe because the FXR goggles are really good too.
Right.
So there are some riders that opt to go full sweep head to toe. I mean, boots obviously they don't have like a super top tier boot like the other brands, but um yeah, there's quite a few riders. Like look at the uh Club MX. I don't know why I want to say Rock River. Maybe even Rock River FXR too. And then the Triumph team, like they're pretty FXR out, man. They got some good
Is there
guys in there.
anything else that happened at the Supercross race? I love how our Supercross race
Uh,
breakdowns. We talk about Supercross for a minute and a
5 seconds.
half,
What else
which I'm
happened?
totally okay with.
Malcolm, really bad start. Ever since I sat next to Big James in Indy, I like every time I see Malcolm like not get a good start, I'm like, that guy is probably punching the air, doing freaking steal third base in quotes or something, dude. I'm like, where is he, dude? I want to see the freaking rhythm dancing this guy's gonna do. Um, but no,
Malcolm killed it in the heat, crashed in that first section, which was
he
kind of
did.
gnarly, and then came back to third.
Yeah, dude,
That's pretty impressive.
moving, absolutely moving. But yeah, really, I do want to shout out. And I made a note of this. I want to shout out Joe Shimoda being super racy with Deegan.
Yep.
That was super cool. Again, I did not have Joe Shimoda being that type of rider this year. Anaheim 1 surprised me. Rides like this surprised me. So I think I need to elevate that guy in where I place him on the track.
Yeah, shout out Joshy.
Thought Beaumaire had it, but man, the Deegan thing. Coming off the track, did you see them kind of squabbling up a little bit and Deegan kind of smack him?
Yeah, did Deegan go up to him and start that?
I don't remember what it was, but honestly, it annoys me so much because I'm not a violent guy. I love everybody at the track. Like I'm all for that. But I'm so sick of riders being like, if you're that pissed off to go say something and like put your finger in his face, like, dude, like run a fade, dude. Like see some boxing. I'm so that's why I love Weston, dude. Enough was enough, and he was like, I'm so sick of I'm just gonna talk to this guy and put my finger in his face and like blah blah blah. Like, dude, if anybody was like, hey David, I'm angry at you and I want to yell at you and say whatever, I'd be like, cool. Are we gonna throw hands? No, then I'm not sitting here listening to you whine. Like I
was so curious when I was watching that.
Like,
I was like, what are they saying? Because none of it's gonna make any sense. But that's how
for sure. Yeah,
that's how those things go. People are heightened, and also they're young. So you have heightened people.
I totally get it, but like if you have enough gall to come up and like want to like throw out like threats and get in my face or whatever, I'm like, unless you're gonna throw hands and we're gonna squabble on camera, I don't have to listen to this. You're just at that point you're just whining. Like my kid does that. You know, like I'm not gonna listen to you. Are we doing hands? No,
there's no point. Yeah, there's completely completely no point either.
There really isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna get into like, oh, let's go. Your boy's got some deep seated anger. I got daddy issues. Let's go. However, you know, if not, then like, you know, I'm not gonna be there. I'm gonna go back to the ring.
Yeah, but because even then though, my mindset is sort of like, even if you were to ever get in a physical fight with somebody, what is even the point? Unless it were to the death, that makes more sense, you know?
Jeez, Julius Caesar. All right, dude.
Well, because then it
unless it's to the death for my enjoyment,
then it would make more sense because it's like, okay, well, you know, that person would be gone.
I mean, you know, if they want to kill each other in hand combat,
but if you're just fighting and it's not a fight to the death, then eventually. Or a referee, or okay, maybe it doesn't have to be a fight to the death. Maybe it just has to be a refereed officiated fight. So where there's a clear winner and loser.
This guy loves Game of Thrones.
If it's just getting into a fight to just not have somebody say you won or lost at the end, then what are you getting into it for? And in that situation, it's like you can't do anything anyways because you'd be like, if a real fight. What ended up happening with Weston? He didn't get as in trouble as I would have thought, to be quite honest.
I think he had to sit out like a race or something he got
probably a fine.
It wasn't just like which Weston, like I love the dude because it's what's crazy is Weston's really cool and really nice.
Oh yeah,
like he's got this big like bad, like, it's in him for sure. But like if you're a cool dude to Weston, he is such a nice dude. He's super cool. But yeah, it wasn't like I threw him up over the head, or I just even like we just rolled on top of each other or whatever that was earlier in Supercross this season. He was like, I'm gonna like load up and I'm gonna throw in some rights, maybe a left and another right. And like he held him in place so that he could keep landing those shots. So that's gonna live in infamy, dude. That like Weston is gonna be a legend forever because of that.
Man, yeah. Speaking of Moto Concepts rider getting punched in the face, Tony Lessie called me out of the blue yesterday.
Oh, how was that?
I saw it on my caller ID and it said Tony Alessi literally popped up on my. I didn't have his contact saved because I've never talked to him on the phone, but it just popped up as like the little top caller ID, and I was like, that couldn't be. But so I never answered just random phone calls. I was like, hello, He goes, "Hey AJ, Tony Lessie here." I was like, "Oh, hey Tony, how you doing?"
You know, it's fun. I can picture him saying that. Like he hops right to bits on the phone.
Oh
He's
yeah,
real. He's like, there's no like banter. He's
no.
like, this is what I need. We're talking about this. He called me about the collective one day, and he was like, "Hey Dave, what do you got?" I was like, "Oh, well, I had a whole thing planned out, but how are you today, sir?"
And I like that because I hate wasting
Yeah,
time on phone calls. So like, yeah, it was my
yeah,
type of
yeah,
phone call. Hey, AJ, Tony Lessie here. Oh, cool. Oh, hey, how you doing? I'm great. Okay,
yeah.
so yeah, it just dives right in.
Just straight to business, dude.
What I didn't know is he has a bunch of young kids, and he has two younger daughters that ride
Yeah.
on 50s, and he's going to
Yep.
bring them to our class in Sandy Valley. So he was just calling to see if there was availability there and if they were old enough to be able to participate. And so I thought that was super cool. Mitchell, I think that's going to be a Mitchell class. So I said, "Hey, it's going to
Oh,
be it's
perfect.
going to be Coach Mitchell." I said, "Make sure you call
Yeah.
me afterward and
Uh-huh.
give me a rating on how you think Mitchell did." So I told Mitchell
Yeah.
right away. I'm like, "Tony's going to
Oh,
be there and he's going to
dude,
give me a phone call after and
he's stressing.
let me know how you're doing."
You know what's
Uh,
cool? Mitchell is so good with like newer, younger riders too. He's
mm,
gonna blow it out of the water, dude. He's gonna be so good.
he is. Yeah, and he's got that
He's gonna be
relatable
so so
factor
good.
because he started later, so it's just I think he's just
Yeah,
more relatable in general to the students
yeah,
and he's really relatable and he does well with young kids too.
yeah.
Mitchell kills it. And I think Ty will be the same way. Ty
Oh,
is
for
really
sure.
good
Yeah,
with the
Ty
kids too.
Ty is so personable. Yeah,
Yep.
he's really good about that. I will forever tout Mitchell as one of my own. I'm gonna take full
Yeah.
full credit for that man because I've been telling you for years what a freaking amazing gem of a human being he is. So but you know what's funny? I can't think of
Wild how that all worked
two.
out, really.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can't think of two more differing personalities and approaches to racing than Tony Alessi and Mitchell Prescott. It's just knowing the way like Tony's got like his kids were born and bred amateur phenoms. They weren't amateur champions. They were amateur phenoms. They he literally had a fan base on 60s. They were phenoms. And then Mitchell's approach is just like very like Bob Ross of like, yeah, good job,
Yeah, Bob
buddy.
Ross,
Everyone
that's
love
good.
everybody. We're very, you know, he's like, hey, you can do it, you got it, which is great for
Couldn't be
everybody,
more
dude.
on
That
brand
is
with the
how
Moto
you
Academy. Yeah.
couldn't be more on brand. Like, and he will give you the confidence and like love on you enough to where you will do the jump and feel good about it after. You will do it safely, and your confidence will be sky high. Just seeing how Tony approaches it versus Mitchell, it's like, huh, okay, that wasn't on my 2025 bingo card, but cool.
That's hilarious. And Ty
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
little bit different for sure. I'd say a lot different than Mitchell. So
Mhm.
it's interesting because in my position, I want to be able to groom these guys into better and better and better and better trainers. But
Yeah.
I don't want them to just be complete replicas of me. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I think it has
Throw
to
their own sauce in there a little bit.
yeah, I think it has to start there,
Yeah.
which was I think probably part of the reason it was so weird to everybody else when like James stopped working for us. It was like he was still me. Wasn't
Mhm.
him yet. I don't know if he is yet
Yeah.
now, but he was me 2.0 where Mitchell's
Yeah.
gotten to that and he's way beyond that now to where he's got his
Mhm.
own style completely to it. He has his own way completely of saying things. You know,
Yeah.
because like there's a process that Moto Academy teaches,
Mhm.
but there's a million ways that you could describe that process, analogies that you
For
can
sure.
use and visuals that you can
Yep.
create. If you only use the ones that I say,
Anecdotes.
it
Yeah.
takes effect away from it, I think.
For sure. And that's what I like is like the anecdotes that you have are great, but the anecdotes and the experience that Mitchell brings from the other side of the curtain of like you said, I don't have Minios titles. I don't have, you know, a Polini factory ride. I don't have all of these different things. Like I'm very much like a working man's kind of racer. I've had the same issues that you have had at the same age that you are. You know what I mean? Whereas like a lot of the things that you might say, people are like, yeah, cool, but like dude, it's AJ Catanzaro. You know, it's like this guy was born fast. You know, to be able to have Tyler and which not the case, you had to work really hard. Um, but like to see somebody like a Tyler or like a Mitchell that like they understand what it's like to be like, you know, 14, 15 and like want to be a professional rider, but like you're just not comfortable yet. You don't have the experience of all these different racetracks, all these different bikes, all these different scenarios. It's really, really great to have that perspective and be able to level with a lot of the people at the classes, the students, the people inside the app. It's really good to have that perspective on. I know what it's like. I've been there, and be able to relay that back and show them, hey, you can get to this next level. You don't need to have that background to be a successful, safe racer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what's
So,
rewarding for me is
yeah,
it's creating
I
a,
think it's
a
great.
a roadmap for somebody like a Mitchell to at the same
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
right? It creates a ton of
yeah,
value for the
for sure.
customer, obviously, but it's also created a roadmap of a career path for Mitchell
Yeah, yeah,
and for Ty for these guys that like you can earn a living by being on Moto Academy and being a coach, which by the way is a teacher, a coach is the most rewarding thing that you can do in helping others. Far more rewarding
yeah.
than racing. Racing is a selfish act. When you're riding
Oh,
for a
yeah.
team,
It's
even
your one man. Yeah,
it's
you're a
about
one man
you.
band basically.
So
Yeah,
it's
for
a
sure. And
selfish endeavor, and teaching is the
I
complete
love
opposite.
yeah. I love that you glom onto that so well. It's like because I could even see it when you do teach and things go well. And the racers do not have to be fast. You do not have to be fast to impress the coaches. It's literally just how well you exhibit the basic techniques. And when you see somebody, I'm thinking of like Arizona Motoland working with that one Cali rider of getting them comfortable over like, it could even be a simple tabletop and just seeing like the light bulb go off and they're like, oh my gosh, I did it. Or like, hey, I can do this thing. Or the confidence comes up. I can see like that glimmer in your eye, which like you could win an LCQ and you'd still be like, yeah, that was cool. And then walk back to the truck. And it never touches like that like excitement of like when one of your students gets to that next level. You know what I mean? Which is really, really cool. I love to see that.
It's the best. Teaching is the best. So okay, hour and 37. Dave, thank you for go back to bed, would you? Go get some sleep.
Yeah, I need to. I'm gonna go sleep in a coffin.
Speaking of sleeping, I think Millie just woke up, so that was good timing. Moto Academy podcast, number one podcast in motocross. Episode still don't know. I don't even have a clue. Ethan,
I have no idea.
when you see this part, send me a text just so I can kind of get within 40 episodes of where we're at. Like
A text that you're gonna lose in 2 seconds.
I couldn't even
You're gonna
remotely
text
like Dave, do you know what episode we're on of the Moto Academy podcast? Could you take a guess?
140 something, like low 140s.
Okay, see, I would guess more like 180,
Okay. Huh.
but I don't know.
Interesting.
So the two people
Who
still
knows?
listening, maybe you know. Send me a message, Driver Jamie, if you're listening. Text me right now. What episode of the Moto Academy
Shout out
podcast?
Driver Jamie. Shout out Tony Drakes. Love you, boys.
Shout out. Yeah, you think Tony's still listening? An hour and 38 minutes in.
Religiously, dude. He called me
Shout
the
out,
other
Tony.
day and was like, he's like, David, like, we were talking about Billy and Manny, and so he's like, there's three kids that like they feel like they're my children, Manny, Billy, and AJ. I am so proud of the three of your friends. Billy is just he's always in Europe filming. Manny's making more money than anyone's ever heard of, and I'm just so proud of AJ and what we've been through. I'm like, you weren't there when he was born, dude. I'm your kid. Be proud of me, dude. He's like, I'm just so proud of AJ. It brings a tear to my eye. I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go home now.
And shout out Tony Drakes. Thanks for being a good dad to me. I appreciate you. Okay, that's it.
That's
Moto Academy
hilarious.
podcast. I gotta go potty. Toodles.
Bye, friends.